Hello everyone, and welcome to my video tutorial over the Prepare Expansion Analysis Part A project. This will get you started on your Chapter 10 project. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. As you can see, I've already got the instructions downloaded and I have my starter file downloaded. So let's go ahead and read through what needs to be done in this lab. We can see here we're going to go onto our break-even analysis worksheet, and in cell D6 we're going to calculate what the gross revenue is by multiplying the total clients by the golf lesson fee. So let's go to the break-even analysis worksheet on our Excel document, and we are going to go to cell D6. Once here, we are going to calculate that that gross revenue. We're going to multiply our total clients, which you can see is right here, even though there's no value here. I'm going to go ahead and put my equal sign to get my formula started. So I'm going to multiply the value that would be stored here for total clients times the golf lesson fee, which is here in D5. So we're going to have our D4 times the value that is stored in D5. So once we start putting in some clients, we'll see what our revenue is. Let's go to the next step here. In cell D13, we're going to calculate the total fixed costs associated with providing golf lessons to the clients. So we're going to go to cell D13. And all we're going to do here is do the sum of all of our fixed costs. So we're going to go up and hit the auto sum button, and it's going to select the exact cells we need, D9 through D12. That will give us what our total fixed cost is. The next thing we're going to do here is in cell D15, we're going to calculate the total commission that the golf instructors will earn by multiplying the gross revenue by the instructor commission. So to calculate our total commission, we're going to multiply the gross revenue by the instructor commission. So let's go back and go to cell D15. And in cell D15, we're at the equal sign to create our formula. And once again, we're taking our value that's in D6, our gross revenue, multiply it by the total clients, or the revenue, the instructor commission. So that will be C15. We'll hit enter. And it looks like that did not take. So let's make sure we do that again. For me at least, equals D6 times the value that's in C15. Alright, great. So now my formula is there. Alright, so the next step we need to complete is step 5 here. So in cell D16, calculate the total cost of supplies by multiplying the amount of supplies per client by the total clients. So let's go back to cell D16. There is D16. Now we're going to put our equal sign, the amount of supplies per client, so it should be C16, multiplied by the total clients, which as we've looked at before was D4. Hit enter, and now we've got our formula built in for that one. Take a look at step 6. In cell D17, calculate the total variable costs by adding the total instructor commission and the total cost of supplies. So let's go ahead and figure out our total variable costs in cell D17. So here in cell D17, we're going to take D15 plus D16, and that gives us our total variable costs. So just to make it quick, I'll hit the auto sum button, and that was my formula. Next step here is step 7. So in step 7, in cell D18 on the same worksheet, we're going to calculate the total expenses by adding up our total cost fixed and the total variable costs. So let's go back to cell D18. And to do this, we're going to take the value that's stored up here, our total fixed costs, plus our total variable costs, and that will give us our net income. So we'll take equals. I'm going to take D13, so our total fixed costs, plus D17, and that's my expenses. And then to get net income, I'm sure it's going to tell us to get our, we'll just go ahead and take a look at the step. It should be our revenue minus our expenses. So if we look at step D8, or step 8, say in cell D19, calculate the net income by subtracting the total expenses from our gross revenue as expected. So we'll go to cell D19, and from here we're going to take the value that's in D6, so I'm going to put equal sign. The value that is in D6, our total gross revenue, minus our total expenses, which should be D18, and that will give us what our net income is. Our next step is to let's test everything. So in cell D4, we're going to do a what if analysis. What if we had X amount of total clients? So if we had, we're going to change the value to 50, then 60, and finally 65, noticing our changes in our net income. So in theory, the more customers, the more income. So let's go ahead and put those values in now. We'll put in 50. We are at an operating loss. We're losing $1,600 because our expenses are more than what our revenue is. If we bump that up to, if we had 60 clients, we can see we're losing $537. So we're still losing money. And then it said to bump this up to 65. Here we've gone just past our break-even point, which would be 0, where we've broken even, to a little bit of profit at $17.65. So to run at a minimum profit, we need around 65 clients. Let's jump back over to our directions. Now we're on step 10. Here it wants us to incorporate a scroll bar form control. We've done form controls before using our developer tab. So we're going to put this into our break-even analysis that will make it easier to determine the number of clients necessary for us to break even. So we can use that scroll bar to go up and down, and that will change our value to see where our break-even is. So we should see it's going to be around 65. We already know that. And here's our values we're going to put in. So we're going to put these values in into our scroll bar form control. So we're going to put that form control in the cell range of E4 to E17. Then we're going to modify that form control and put in these values. So let's go back over and we'll go to E4. We're just going to go ahead and start here, even though we're going to draw this. We're going to go to our developer tab. Now that we're in our developer tab, we're going to go to our controls group. We're going to insert, and you're going to scroll over these to find the one you want. And here's our scroll bar form control. So I'm going to click that. Now I'm going to draw this from E4 to E17. There's my scroll bar. Now I'm going to modify the format control properties. So I'm going to right click on that. Format control. And here's where I'm going to put those values in. Current value is 65. The minimum value we want to be able to look at is 50. Our maximum value is 120 clients. We want to be able to increment by 1. Our page change at 10. And our cell link is we're linking to cell D4 for our total clients. We'll hit OK now. And we can see as we drag this around, by clicking on it and dragging it around, we'll see how our values change. So right now we're at 65. If I drop this down to, let's say, 70, we'll see how our net income changes. So if I drop this down to, let's say, 80, you can see now we're working at a profit of $1,600, almost $1,700. If I scroll down even further, if we are at 90 clients, we're generating a profit of almost $2,800. If I drag this back down below 65, we see that we're running at negative, so we're losing money. So that's what it wanted us to check. I'm going to reset this back to 65. And we'll go on to the next step. Here in step 11, we're going to do some conditional formatting, and this is going to highlight our net income value in cell D19. So we're going to do it with two different types of conditional formatting. One that's going to really emphasize if we're writing in the negative, we're losing money, and another that if we're making profit. So we're going to go to cell D19, and we're going to do two different conditional formattings to where if we are in the negative, so less than 0, we want it to display the value in a light red fill with a dark red text. And if we're making a profit, so greater than 0, we're going to have it fill with green and then have a dark green text. So let's go to cell D19, and we are going to do our conditional formatting. So here in D19, we're going to go up to the Home tab. From the Home tab, we're going to go to the Styles group over here, and here's our conditional formatting object. So I'm going to click this, and we want to highlight the cells, and we're first of all going to do our less than, and then we'll do our greater than. So less than 0, going to be light red fill with dark red text. Hit OK. And then we're going to do another one where if it's greater than 0, we want that to be a green fill with dark green text. Hit OK. And we can see that worked just as we thought. If we go less than, we see how the conditional formatting applies. So it worked as we expected. Alright, let's see what the next step is. Step 12, we're going to do a one variable data table. And this table is going to help us determine how much our monthly payment on a loan would be based on a varying interest rate. Then we're going to do some conditional formatting that can be applied to add emphasis on the increase of the readability of our monthly payment. So on our loan conditions worksheet, we're going to change worksheets, and we're going to create our one variable data table by typing in the various interest rates 5 through 11% in increments of 1%, so 5%, then 6%, then 7%, in the group D3 through D9. So go ahead and go there and do that now. D3 through D9, put in your 5% through 11%. So we've got our variable interest rates. Now we're going to go back to our instructions. And in cell E2, we're going to reference the cell that calculates the monthly payment of our loan. Then we're going to apply a custom format to the cell so that the cell appears to have the text monthly payment. So go to cell E2, and we want it to reference the cell that calculates the monthly payment for the loan, which is right here in B6. So equals B6. Enter. Now we don't want to see this value. We want to see the text monthly payment. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to right click, go to Format Cells. I'm going to do a custom cell format, and I want to just put the text in quotes, monthly payment. Now my value is still going to be there. The formula is still going to be there where it's referencing this cell's formula, but I will actually see the text monthly payment. So an end user has no idea when they're just looking at this report, oh, okay, monthly payment. And here's the information for monthly payment based off of our varying interest rate. They have no idea that the information is coming from here. All right, so let's see what our next step is. We're going to finish our one variable data table to see the monthly payment amount for each interest rate. So now we're going to do use our what if analysis to create this one variable data table. So we'll go back to our workbook, and here on our worksheet we are going to complete the table. So let's go ahead and select our actual table of D2 through E9. Then we're going to go up here to the data tab. We're going to go over here to the forecast group and our what if analysis. Once we click on this, we're going to select data table. Now the data table is here for us. Now what's actually changing is we're just going to change what's in this column here. So we're going to now, here in our column input cell, what's changing every time we go is what is in this column here. This is the value that's going to change to correct my monthly payment. So we're going to select B4 to represent our interest rate. So when it's going through here, it's going to know to look here for our interest rate to calculate the monthly payment. I'm going to hit OK, and there's my values. And you can take a look at this and see if it makes sense. At 6.25%, our monthly payment's around $1,900. So if we go higher than 6.25%, the value should be higher. And if we go less than 6.25%, the value should be less than $1,898, which it is. So it makes logical sense. So our one-way data table, or our one variable data table, makes sense. I'm going to click outside that, and we'll go back and see what our next direction is. So we're going to apply some conditional formatting to that range of our payments, E3 through E9. We're using the gradient fill green data bar option to see those payments within a conditional formatting. So we'll go back. We're going to select that data group, E3 through E9. Now we're going to go up to our Home tab once again. We're going to go to Conditional Formatting here in the Styles group. Drop that down. There's the data bars. And it wanted us to pick, for that, the green data bar. So make sure you have that selected. Click on that. You can see how that looks, and it's much easier to see that way too. Because remember, doing things like this are going to create some visual emphasis and overall better readability of our data. Alright, let's go back to our directions, and it looks like we are now on step 16. And we're going to do another one variable data table that can be used to determine how the changes in our client demand for our golf lessons will affect our expenses, our revenue, and our net income. We're also going to apply some conditional formatting to add emphasis, as I just mentioned earlier, and increase the readability of the net income field. So on our break-even analysis worksheet, create a one variable data table by referencing the cell that calculates the total expenses in cell H4, just like we did before. Then go to cell I4 and reference the cell that calculates the gross revenue. And then cell J4, reference the cell that calculates the net income. Once we do that, we're going to change the formatting of those 3 cells so that the results of the reference cells are hidden. And to do that, we're going to do something different. Where earlier we added some text as a special, here we're going to make it display a blank. So let's go ahead and do those 2 steps right now. So on our break-even analysis, we're going to come up here to cell H4, and we're going to put an equal sign in here because the expenses is going to reference cell D18 for our total expenses. Hit enter, and then revenue, that is going to equal our gross revenue, D6. I'll hit enter, and then for net income, that is obviously going to equal D19. Now I'm going to highlight these 3 cells because we don't want to see the values. We don't want anyone looking at this to see the values. We're going to right click on this, format cells. We're going to go to custom again, and this time we're just going to type in a couple semicolons. Hit OK, and we see blanks, but our cell referencing is still there. Alright, so back here on our instruction sheet, we can see our next step is, now we're going to finish this one variable data table to see how the expenses, revenue, and the net income change whenever our total clients vary from a value of 10 to 100. So we're going to use a what if analysis data table once again. So let's go back over to our worksheet. Let's select our cells B4 through J14 here. I don't know why I said B, we're in G here. So G4 through J14. Now that we have these selected, we're going to go up here to our data tab again. And then from here, we are going to go to our forecast group, what if analysis, and data table. For this group, what's actually changing this time is our row. So for this one, we are going to select what's changing. It's going to be our total clients. We'll hit OK. And there we go. Actually, I selected the wrong area there. So I'm going to hit undo. Go back to my break-even analysis. And it didn't let me do that. So I will just select it again. What if analysis, data table. D4. Apparently I should have hit column. There we go. That looks a lot better. We can see where we are losing money and making money here. When we see the values that are in parentheses, that's actually a different representation of a negative number. So let's go ahead and, as we take a look at this, see if it makes sense. If we have 10 clients, this is what our expenses will be. We're only generating $1,400. We're losing a lot of money at over $6,000. We know our break-even point's around 65, so if we look at 70, we should be into some profit, and we are. Very slight profit of $573 if we have 70 clients, because we're generating more revenue than we are spending our expenses. So that makes sense. Sorry about that little mistake. I put that in the wrong field. I don't know why I selected row instead of column, but I did. Alright, so let's go back to our instructions. And we're going to scroll down to step 19 now. And we're going to do some more conditional formatting in that range of J5 through J14 to highlight the cells. If our value is less than 0, we want it to be red. If it's greater than $2,000. So if we're generating more than $2,000 in profit, which that's our goal, we want to generate more than $2,000. So we will see that highlight in green, so we will know how many clients we need to be able to reach our goal of $2,000 in profits. So let's go back to that. So we just want to look at our net income field here. Select J4 or J5 through J14. Now here we're going to go once again to our home group, styles, our home tab styles group, conditional formatting, highlight cells rule again. We're going to do less than 0, light red fill with dark red text, and we're going to do our greater than. And our greater than, our goal is 2,000. And we want that to be green, so green fill with dark green text. Hit OK. And we can see that around the 90 client range, we're generating more than $2,000 in net income. So that, as I said earlier, this adds some visual emphasis to us to be able to see what our data is telling us. So we can see we are definitely, in the red. We're spending more than we're making if we have 60 or less clients. And to reach our goal of a minimum $2,000 profit, we need to be around 90 clients. All right, so now that we have that visual emphasis, let's see what our next direction is. We are at step 20. We are going to create a 2D line chart using the data in cells G13, G3 through I3, and the data that's in G5 through I14. Once we select the 2D line chart based off of this data, we're going to position the chart so that its top left corner is starting in cell F16. Once our chart's been created and positioned, we're going to add a primary horizontal axis title. And remember, that is adding a chart element. Then we're going to give that horizontal axis the text client demand. Then we're going to change our chart title to read cost, volume, profit. Let's go ahead and create our 2D line chart now. So we'll select our data as we were instructed, G3 through I3 and G5 through I14. Now we have that data selected. We're going to create our 2D line chart. So we're going to go to Insert. Once you're on the Insert tab, go to the Charts group. And then we're going to select a line chart. It's going to be a 2D line chart. So that first one here. Now we're going to reposition this chart. So at the top left corner is inside of cell F16. The next thing it wanted us to do was to add a primary horizontal axis. So we're going to add a chart element, axis titles, primary horizontal. Now in here we're going to change that title, and we want it to read client demand. And now we're going to change our main chart title to read cost, volume, profit. So that should be it for that step. So I'm going to click outside that, and we can see that based off our expenses and the amount of revenue we're generating from our clients, that here around 65 clients, we see that that is obviously our break-even point. And after that is where we start seeing that we're generating more profit than we are spending. So just another way of representing the same data. All right, back here, now that we have created our 2D line chart, we're going to create a 2-variable data table that calculates the revenue to help us in the analysis of various client demand and lesson fee scenarios. So we're going to switch worksheets to the fees and demand worksheet. Then we're going to create our 2-variable data table by referencing the cell that calculates net income in cell E3. So go to cell E3 on the fees and demand worksheet and reference the net income calculation cell. So we'll switch worksheets, fees and demand. And we're going to go up here to cell E3. And we're going to reference, so equals, our net income calculation, so B7. So we'll hit enter. Now we're going to go back to our instructions. Now that we just did step 21, we want to apply a custom format in cell E3 so that the formula is not seen. So we'll go back, we'll right click on that, go to format cells, go to custom once again, and we see we've already created it, so we don't have to create it again. So we're going to click on that, hit OK, and even though our formula is there, no one can see what's there. Alright, so our next step is going to be step 23. We're going to finish our two variable data table to see how the net income changes when our lesson fees and our client demand varies. So let's go ahead and go back and select our table, which is going to be E3 through L16. Once we have that selected, we're going to go to our what if analysis again. So we're going to click on our data tab. We're going to come here to forecast, what if analysis, and select data table once again. Now that we have that selected, here this time, since we're using two different ones, we're going to say our row input is going to be B3 for our lesson fees, and for our column input, where are we getting the input for that? What is that referencing? Well, that is going to be our total clients. So we will get that information from B2. So get our information for our lesson fee as that changes in the rows, and then get the data for the clients from our column here. So get our data for our lesson fees from each row, and then our clients from each column. Hit OK, and we'll see how our data looks. And we can see that it does make sense. If we are only at 55 clients, even if our rate is $160, we're still losing money. We're losing a lot more money if we're at $130 for our fees. We know that if we're at $65 or 65 clients and $160, we're getting better, but we need to see how that information makes sense. If we get more clients and we charge more money, we're obviously going to have the most income. If we don't have as many clients, then we need to charge more money to be able to get to our where we're generating some profit. So the data should make sense. Every time you create a formula, you need to see if the data makes sense. Don't just go through the motions of following what I'm doing. Make sure that whenever you're doing this, such as with your Excel project, you need to make sure that the data makes sense. We know if we're not charging enough and we don't have enough clients, we're not going to make money. You can see that somewhere around here we're starting to make money. Here's where we can maximize. If we have 115 clients and we're charging the same that we are charging them at 75 clients, then we're generating a lot more income, a lot more revenue. If we don't have very many clients, we have to charge them more money so that we can get into a profit. All right, let's take a look at what we have left to do for this assignment. All right, so now we're going to do some conditional formatting once again to emphasize, add emphasis and readability to our data. We're going to format cells F4 through L16 as currency first of all. So F4 through L16. Go back to our Home tab. Drop this down, select currency. Now we know that we're working in dollar amounts. Next thing it wants to do is just do some conditional formatting to arrange the highlight cells in red again if it's less than 0, and this time we want to see values that are greater than $3,500. That's our new goal, is $3,500. We want that to be in green, of course. So we'll go back and do what we have already completed before. We're going to apply it here. So with this highlighted, come up to conditional formatting, highlight cells, less than 0, we want to be red, and greater than 3,500. We want to be green. Hit OK. Yes, we are generating profit in this range, but it hasn't reached the goal of $3,500. We want to be greater than $3,500 each month in our net income. That should be it for this lesson. This gets you started and ready to continue on with part B, which you should be ready for if you've completed all of the work necessary, reading through the book and watching the videos. In that project, you will work with GoalSeek, you'll work with scenarios, working with pivot tables once again. You'll work with using the solver tool. So just make sure to reference your e-text and the Blue Box videos and you will do just fine. Good luck, everyone. I hope this helped explain some of the concepts from the chapter, as well as help hopefully save you some time as you're working through this and understanding why we're doing what we're doing and being able to apply that into real world scenarios. Take care, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.